Hello and welcome to Center for Victory. It's a podcast of your best day yet. At Center for Victory, we're here to help unlock, reinforce, and enrich relationships through personal and professional development. I'm Eric Guy, Chief Victory Officer here at Center for Victory. With us today, Mr. Corey Chrisman, good friend of mine. I'm going to let him introduce you and what he's up to. Now, I've known Corey and his wife for quite a while, and love what they're doing and what they're all about. And I really want you to kind of, listen in and hear his why, what he's doing. Some of the things, he's doing, he and his wife are doing around celebrating heroes today. So Corey, I'm going to shut up for just a second. If you could, let everybody know, who you are, what you've been through, your past, experience and things, and then what you're doing now. So it's all yours.
Fantastic. Thanks for having me, Eric. I'll try to keep it brief. It seems like I've been involved in a number of things over the years, but primarily we have a wine brand called Bravery Wines, and our tagline happens to be celebrating the hero in you. That's one of our more recent developments, but in my younger years, post high school, I joined the military straight out of high school and spent a long time there, almost 21 years, retiring in 2012. For those of your listeners and followers who have ever seen the TV show NCIS, that's kind of what I did for the Air Force, except we didn't solve our cases in 42 minutes like you see on TV. And there was not as many explosions and gun battles that you see either. So very fortunate to serve in a group of magnificent men and women. And after retirement, it came to, what do I do now? And by that time, I had been making wine in very small batches. I don't know, I guess it was wine, but my wife tried some things that maybe your average person wouldn't perceive as wine. So, and then in 2014, after going to school at Washington State University, I started an internship in the Finger Lakes wine region of upstate New York with a winery called Anthony Road Wine Company, and I've never left. In 2020, we started Bravery Wines, and very small production, roughly 400 to 500 cases per year. We've been doing it now for a little over 2.5 years, and we're excited about where the future goes. But we're a wine producer, but we're also in the business of celebrating people. We focus on veterans and first responders and caregivers, but more importantly, we focus on people who live a life of service and who are willing to give to others without any expectation of things in return. That's about as brief as I can make it.
That was good though, because it ties into what I want people to hear is really the why. And I want them just to hear the good story around it as well, because, as you know, there's a lot of garbage out there just infiltrating our heads nowadays. And, this is such a good story. I mean, yeah, and we don't have to share. I mean, I love the story how you and your wife met, how you got together, that kind of stuff. But now you're here, and this isn't like this. This is good wine, right? And I'm not, I'm not a wine connoisseur, but and I'm not just saying that because I've tasted it. You've gotten some accolades lately, correct?
Yeah, we were fortunate. Wine competitions and those types of things tend to be subjective, right? But we were fortunate to, in last year's competitions, 2 of our wines received best of wines in New York State. So our Sauvignon Blanc, which is a white wine, was the best Sauvignon Blanc in New York State for that given contest. And one of our Rieslings was one of the best Rieslings in New York State as well. So several other of our wines did very well. But to get those 2 accolades very early on in our career is, you might say it's luck. You might say but we're very fortunate for those types of awards because while it's subjective, it is reflective of what we're trying to do as far as our producing
Yeah.
quality.
Now the point system there, I know you have two that I think it was those two that it was a 92 and a 94. Is that
Yeah,
right?
the Sauv Blanc was 93 and the
Okay.
Riesling was 94 out of
Okay.
100. Yeah. So,
And what does that mean? Like for somebody that
well,
doesn't know that, I mean, I know it's good. Like whenever you see like 90 or above, I'm like, yeah, it's pretty good wine.
yeah, and that's usually the key. But we're fortunate to have those. I've always been one that how do you delineate between an 89 and a 90, right? So there's all these, exactly what you said, people that look for 90 and above. I think that the point system is designed early on, many years ago, it was designed to really focus on the superb wines, the ones that were 90 and above. And to a certain extent, that it's still that way. Um, and it gives the reader, it gives the person like a frame of reference. I think in some cases, it can also help wineries justify higher price points.
Yeah.
um, but I think any of your listeners or followers, I mean, if they can find a 90-point wine that's $20, I would encourage them to try that versus a 90-point wine that's 100. So the rating system and the price don't always coordinate with one another.
Yeah.
So that's why the Finger Lakes, where we're at in New York, I try to tell people if you want value, for example, the winery we work with, Anthony Road, they have about 30 different wines that they sell. And every wine in their portfolio at the moment is 90 points or above, which is almost unheard of.
Wow.
So great, fortunate to work with great people. But the great part about those 90 points or above, their average bottle price is in the low 20s, right? You can find some of those 90-point wines between $15 and $20.
Wow.
And those are the opportunities that the Finger Lakes provides that other places around the world, like or in our country, like Napa and Oregon and the more predominant wine regions, don't provide anymore. Not saying we're any better or any worse, but there's just a lot of value at the moment in the Finger Lakes.
Yeah, that's good stuff. And like you don't look like a typical winemaker, right? I know, people have joked when we've been together, especially like if we've been in an event where we're both like dressed up or anything, got some suits on. It's like, I've been asked several times, is that your bodyguard? And I laugh without it because it just comes up so many times. I'm like, do I look like a guy that needs a bodyguard? So all that kind of stuff goes through my head. But the important piece here that I want to get to is like, tell people why you do it. Like, what's your motivation? Because that is not easy. Like, there's a lot of wine out there. You've got this very little niche. It's hard work. I've been up there. I see what you've done, what you've produced. Why do you do it? What gets you going? What's your motivation for it?
Well, I've always been a people person, but I've always been somebody who believes and tries to see the good that others do, as opposed to focusing on the negativity and the pessimism. There's no shortage of that in our world. Wine for us gives us a chance to focus on, it was a hobby, but a business that allows us to use wine which is a passion of ours, my wife and I, to celebrate people who live a life of service. Oftentimes, when we hear the word hero in our country, we think of first responders, or we think of military service members, or we think of uniformed personnel. And make no mistake about it, as someone who, lived that life, those people deserve that title. But I think what gets lost in our world nowadays is there's heroes that we see every day that don't get recognized. Some of my prior speaking engagements, I talk about moms and dads and teachers and your neighbor, right? The people that do these seemingly innocuous things for no other purpose than to serve,
Mm-hmm.
right? To these people that they're not looking for anything in return. Um, Truth be told, they could be making, from a teacher standpoint, they can be making a lot more money elsewhere, right? With a lot less responsibility and a lot less, challenges, right? But yet they prevail. They stay, and they stand in the breach, and that's what our brand is about. So, I have a bottle here with this, for the people that might be watching this, not listening to it. Our label, if you go to our website, you can kind of see our label, but our label has these vertical colors, and these vertical colors are representative of um, all of our military service branches, right? And it's also representative of our first responders, right? So that's the vertical colors. When you get to the celebrating the hero in you, those are those heroes that I was talking about, right? That's our tagline. But we're really focused on identifying who those people are, right? Those moms, the dads, the teachers, the people who don't just talk about sacrifice, that they understand it because they live it. And we're proud to donate money. Every bottle that we sell, we donate portions of those proceeds um, to various organizations. Year to date, we're in the $15,000 mark since we launched on November Veterans Day of 2020. So we're about it, right? We love
Mm-hmm.
it, but we're also about doing what we say we're going to do, right? But we've just been fortunate to be a very small brand that happens to use wine as a vehicle to recognize these people. So.
Yeah, and you know a lot about leadership as well. Okay, obviously not just from your service, but you've studied it. Um, there's a great importance in giving back, and I know I'm asking you a lot of things because that you don't necessarily always talk about, just because, and this is one of the reasons I like you so much, because of your humbleness. But I think if you could just kind of talk to that a little bit, um, even and kind of give yourself a couple more shout outs here for a while. It might exhaust you for the day, but I do appreciate that humility. But you really have, since you've launched this, you've put your money where your mouth is. You've given back. And I think that's where the reward came from too. I think there's value in service to others. But just give us a little snapshot of your thoughts around why leaders need to have that kind of mentality, the same kind of mentality you are taking on with Bravery Wines.
I think in recent years the world has changed, right? And I guess we could say that it changes every day, right? But I think what COVID-19 taught us from a business standpoint and an organizational standpoint is it put people, our employees and our coworkers, in situations that they've never been in before, right? It forced them to work from home. Some of them who had never done that. In addition, it forced them to still do all the rest of their duties, right? Or jobs, right? Parents and doing all those other things. But the output of that is it taught those people what's possible, right? It taught them that they were put in a position to struggle, and they prevailed, right? They so now post COVID-19, what we're seeing is these people are less reliant, right? They're more resilient, right? They're less willing to work in organizations that don't respect and appreciate them, right? They want to work in a collaborative environment and not a dictatorship, right? Um, I still get people calling me nowadays asking me, do you know where I can find some employees, right? Do you know? And I wish I did. I don't know what recruiters make nowadays, but I'm sure it's still pretty hefty sum. But I say that, kind of a departure from what we're talking about so far, but I say that because now more than ever, people, as you and I've said many times over the years, people are hardwired for connection,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if you create an environment that's collaborative in nature, that is appreciative and is respectful, you will have a line out your door of people waiting to work in your company or to be a part of your organization. The CEOs and the business owners who continue to resist and continue to rely on the way that it used to be, what I call the do it because I told you days. Um, I feel sorry for them because it just doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw Mike Rowe, the guy the TV personality,
Dirty
right?
jobs. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he just had this I saw it recently where he said there's 7 million men
Yeah.
in the US, right? I don't know how he delineated between men and women, but his comment was there's 7 million men in the US right now that are actively not looking for work, right? And so I think that just speaks volumes that people are just done, and people are done being parts of organizations and teams that are just that are not appreciative and collaborative, right? And I don't mean we have to roll over. I don't mean that we have to coddle employees. I don't mean we don't still have to have high standards, but I do mean that we have to create a collaborative environment that shows that appreciation, right? That shows that we value employees. I was at a meeting the other day at a university in upstate New York, and I was talking to their leadership people, and he goes, "Well, what does culture mean to you?" And I said, "Well, culture is a result, right?"
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, how many times have people called you, Eric, and said, "Geez, could you come over here and just fix my culture for me?" Right? Like as if it can be done in a matter of a couple of days, right? So all this to say that we look at our wine brand, we look at what it is that we're doing. It's to make people feel part of our brand, right? Make people feel that yes, we do make wine, right? But we're about celebrating those people who believe that like we believe, right? And if you don't believe like I believe, that's fine, right? I don't think anything less of anybody, but there's an opportunity for us to move this brand forward with people who like to celebrate others. So when we say
Mm-hmm.
celebrate the hero in you, hero is about courageous character,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when I ask you about your character, some people may not know what that means, right? But it really means, are you willing to serve, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are you willing to care about your neighbor, right? And I don't mean monetarily, I don't mean these big grandiose gestures, but I mean, I have this thing, we all have the ability to be a hero. Um, it's just in how we treat others in a very basic sense. Right?
Yeah. That's very good advice. So I know you're going to be out and about. I heard from a little birdie. I think it was last week. Bumped into your wife, and she said you guys are going to be out and about quite a bit coming up here shortly, and like all summer, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, we have a lot of different things lined up. Next week, we'll be in Dallas for a big veteran entrepreneurial event put on by Syracuse University. Syracuse is in New York, the event's in Dallas. I think Dallas is a great city, obviously, but it's given us a chance to rub elbows with some of the top veteran businesses in the nation. Syracuse they do this. The university does this every year where they recognize the top vet 100 businesses in the nation. We're not on that list, but we're there to celebrate with those folks. And then we have some other events where we're on Memorial Day. We're going to be down in North Carolina at a nonprofit we support called the Special Liberty Project, and it's a Navy couple, a Navy veteran and his wife, who they put on special events for Gold Star families and Gold Star spouses. People that might not be familiar with that terminology, Gold Star, those are spouses and family members who have lost a military service member. It could be in combat or it could be elsewhere, but primarily it's in the line of duty, right? So they're putting on a dinner and they're inviting these people, the Gold Star families there, and we're going to go down and be part of that. So those are just the next two that we have going on, and there's some other things that are hanging that are kind of in the future
So
as well.
if people are interested in coming out and not only connecting with you, but celebrating with you, celebrating heroes with you, where can they find you at?
Well, they can find us at Anthony Road Wine Company, primarily. That's in the Finger Lakes of upstate New York. So about 10 miles south of Geneva. They can look us up on the web at bravery.wine. They can reach out to me.
Now say that again, because when I remember, because you've changed that and it threw me off a little bit. It's not a .com. It's not a .org. It's not, it's bravery.wine.
.wine. Yep.
Wine.
Several years ago, they made some changes a number of years ago to, I'm not sure what the proper terminology is, the switch from .com, and they allowed other extensions, and wine happened to be one of them. And so at that point we were getting ready to launch our business, and I said, well, let's try to be a little different here, go bravery.wine.
So bravery.wine, and you can be reached at how do they reach you by email?
It's just Corey, Corey at bravery.wine. And we're Bravery Wines on social media, so don't hesitate to reach out to us if you have any questions or want to learn more about what we do. Yeah,
it's a great thing, Corey. I hope to have you back. I mean, this has been just great to talk about this, your why. Hopefully, it inspires somebody to do whatever they're doing, because you can find it anywhere. I mean, this is. You probably, when you started your military experience, you probably never thought like, hey, I'm going to be making wine one day and I'm going to be supporting these guys that I've been in the trenches with, all these people, and I'm going to be celebrating people that serve. Thanks again. I appreciate it. Hopefully we'll have you back on. And I'm just going to leave with the question that you asked us earlier to the folks that are listening and watching is, are you willing to serve? We celebrate, you could celebrate yourself by stepping up, and, God knows we need people to just step in and fill that gap and be service oriented. We need more givers than takers right now. So thanks for the inspiration. I certainly appreciate it. Hopefully we'll have you back on again. But that's it for today, folks. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Again, if you want to reach out to Corey personally, Corey at bravery.wine, or you can just go to bravery.wine and look them up, help support them. They're supporting a good cause. They're supporting, and celebrate with them. It's a good cause. It's a good why. And just remember, wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, make this your best day yet. We'll see you soon.